Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel here on YouTube. We've got the TNT takes for you on the Challenge Australia. I'm joined today by the male winner of the Challenge Australia, Troy Cullen. Troy, how you doing?
Hey, good. How you going?
I am good. I'm so excited to talk to you. You became a definite underdog favorite of mine because you were going up against the powers in the house, and it seemed like you were outnumbered heading into the finale. How good did it feel to pull out a win in the very first Challenge Australia?
Yeah, it felt pretty over the moon for me. I'm a pretty big challenge fan, so I've watched a lot of the seasons. And yeah, for me, it was just big to get on the show, let alone win it. So yeah, I was really happy to take it out. That's for sure, especially after the elimination I went through and then battling, you know, I guess with my body in the end to just get through that final. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty fun.
Well, I'm definitely going to ask you about that, but I want to backtrack it to you just saying yes and going on to the show. Being a fan of the show, it's one thing to be a fan, and then it's a completely different thing to be out there actually having to do it. How did the expectations of going out there compare as a fan to actually competing?
Yeah, it was a lot different. You don't realize like how long you have in the house. Like there's a lot of time in between. Like it's not just, hey, we're going straight out to a challenge, and there's a lot of waiting around. There's a lot more running in a lot of the events. There's just a lot more to it. A lot more social things happening in the house that you don't see. Like man, they try and portray it in the TV, but they can't get it all. And especially on our season, I felt like a lot of the drama and the things that were shown were very similar to the way they were shown, but a lot more extreme. I felt like they dulled it down a bit for the TV, because to include everything, it would have been ages, and everyone was taking everything so personally. So for me, that side of things was a lot different to what I thought it would be coming into the challenge.
Yeah, well, you're a legitimate athlete, obviously a ninja warrior. You've gone out there and done some pretty interesting things on Australian TV already. So, how difficult it is it? You're prepared for the physical stuff. You're prepared for the athleticism that is going to come with it as best as you can be. But how difficult is it to balance all these different personalities? Because it looked like you and Marley for a big time there, you were kind of sitting in the middle of this massive rift in the house. What was that like?
Yeah, so obviously going into the house, the first thing I got told from multiple people, oh, you're off Ninja Warrior. Oh, you're going to kill this. Like straight away, I felt like there was a target on my back physically. And I was lucky enough that I didn't really know anybody going into that house, and neither did Marley. So we immediately connected, and we were like, hey, like, let's just be an alliance. And then we sort of let things in the house happen. And then we didn't really pick a side because we didn't need to. And as the house sort of progressed, it was getting so personal that I knew that if I just didn't pretty much spread even more hate and more animosity in the house, I wouldn't be thrown in, even though I was a big physical threat and I was winning a lot of the challenges. I was just trying to be nice when I was putting people in so that hopefully it wouldn't backfire. So that was sort of my game plan with Marley. And while he was in the house, he helped me so much with just helping make decisions of who to put in and just to vent to, because a lot of stuff happens in that house. And if you vent to the wrong person, like it just spreads like wildfire. You would have seen a bit of that with Sorrel, hearing rumors, and she just went off her head, and Ryan as well. And yeah, it was pretty full on in there. So for me to have Marley, yeah, it was a blessing.
So, when Marley left, because you guys had that great
Yeah.
friendship in the house, when Marley left, who did you sort of turn to? Did you have anybody in the house, or was it truly you just had to sort of focus on the job at hand and sort of move forward on your own?
Yeah, when Marley left, that was a big hit for me because he was like my number one. I was hoping if I could get into the next week with him, at least I would have somebody there to help me, I guess, get through, because I knew the Bachelor Alliance was going to come for me at that stage, because Marley went home and I thought there was only one elimination left, but then ended up being two, because in the house, I've been watched a challenge. Normally 8 people go into a final. This one was 6. So
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for 2 more weeks of challenges. So what I actually did that they didn't there is I actually did a bit of a deal with Grant. And I said, because Grant then moved into my room, I said to Grant, hey, like I'll be part of your alliance because I can get one save, and so can Brooke Jowett. So Brooke is going to save Connor, who I also didn't want to see in elimination. I was getting along really well with Connor, and I was like, I can save you, Grant. But then if I look like if I don't win this week's challenge, which is episode 8. It was the ice bath challenge. If I don't win it, can you save me if you win? And he agreed to that. So I was going to save him if I won, which I did, but then he ended up losing anyway. So I didn't even have to uphold my end of the deal. So, yeah. But yeah, at that stage when I was alone, I did turn to Grant. I'm sure the Bachelor Alliance wouldn't have been happy with that had he have not lost, and then I saved him. But, I already had a target on my back, so it didn't really matter at that point what I did.
Yeah, interesting. And maybe they didn't show it because he did end up, losing, like you said.
Yeah.
But you ended up doing really well. You were the counter of that because the Bedroom Alliance, what they were called, they were kind of struggling to get the wins. And that's how Bachelors sort of, stayed together and you could ride that wave. But you won 4 times. What was your strategy? Like you said, you had to put people in there. What was your strategy to try and not get people to come for you at the end of the day? Because it's very hard to keep your hands clean, when you're winning that often.
It is. Well, I would sort of, because I was openly public about it and I was pretty honest that, my alliance is Marley and that's my number one and I'm willing to work with people, but it doesn't mean I'm going to be on alliance with you. Like I never fully committed to any alliance. So it meant that like if I won with I think I won with Emily at one stage, it meant that like I sort of went after Megan and Connor, who was sort of part of the Bachelor Alliance, but it meant that they thought it was more coming from Emily rather than me because they knew my concern as well was for Marley. And I guess a lot of the heat luckily got taken off me because the women seemed to keep getting the heat for me winning, which I found really odd in the sense that like I was winning all the time and they still, like I still had a say in that decision. And I made that clear to everybody in the house when I like at one stage I like, oh no, Emily told you so. I'm like, no, Emily didn't. Like I still had a say in that decision and I don't know, I guess being honest like that and telling them that they just didn't come after me for some reason till the very end, till they had no choice pretty much. Like all the Bedroom Alliance was gone and they're like, yeah, we're coming after you, which I knew. And it was just a shame it was trivia and I sucked at trivia pretty badly.
It seemed like you were good at adapting and working with anyone in the house when it came to those duo relationships and having to work with different female partners. You won 4 times. What strategy did you have working with different partners at different times? And who was the person that you potentially liked working with the most? Was it the obvious person, the one you won the most with, or was there other people out there as well that you really enjoyed working with?
Yeah, that was actually a very interesting one because it was like polar opposite of Grant, who couldn't work with anybody, and Emily then trying to throw me in, I think episode 5, which I didn't hear that conversation, that Emily wanted to throw me in because of the algorithm was going to give you some other partner to Connor, and Connor summed up perfectly. Like if you're good enough at the game and at the challenge as well, you should be able to work with anybody. It shouldn't matter. Like it's called the challenge, it's not called the physical. Just because you're physical doesn't mean you're going to be good at everything. And I think Grant in particular struggled with that a bit because he was physical, but whenever it came to memory or puzzles or working with somebody, which you had to do the entire season, he just sort of folded like a pack of cards. Whereas in my strategy was I'd hear the girl out, I'd let them have a voice because you're going to get the best out of them. If they feel like they've got a lot of input, and they do, they've got good input, and you can put both your heads together, then you're going to get a better result than just having one big head that's doing the whole thing. I believe, a variety of inputs is always better. So I guess I always got a lot of, I guess I've always got the best out of my partner because, I guess I let them in and let them have a say too.
Yeah, it's a collaboration, right? 50-50
yeah,
partnership.
Collaboration. That's it. And you're only working with them for 1 week as well. So you can't just be like, oh, my alliance is all these people and we're going after, you sort of had to be careful with what you said to them and all that sort of stuff as well. Because again, I didn't want to put a social target on my back as well as a physical target. Like I already had a threat level for challenges and that everyone thought I was going to win. I didn't want to put a social target on my back as well. Like I'm part of a big alliance and that. So yeah.
And who was the partner you enjoyed working with the most?
Oh yeah,
I'm sure there was some.
I was wondering what the other part of that question was. I was like, I lost it.
That's my fault. I asked you 2 questions.
No, it's all right. The partner I enjoyed working with the most, I probably enjoyed working with, probably Brooke Jowett the most. Like we did win 2 together, and it is the obvious one, but I don't know, I just felt like we clicked. She's a very smart individual. And I felt like we really were able to put our two brains together on all of them and just nut everything out, especially like on the frozen senseless challenge with that feeling puzzle. She came back to me and she's like, I feel flowers and a fish. And I'm like, what on earth? Because I just looked at him like, there's no flowers or fish. And it was good that she was just able to still remain calm. And I'm like, okay, there's crosses, arrows, and triangles. We won't worry about getting any right this one. You go back, sort it out, and then come back to me and see what we go. And that's just the ability for us to communicate clearly. For me, that helped us progress and get 2 wins together. And even in the leg of the final, we got that win as well together. And there was a puzzle in there too. So, yeah, I really, really did enjoy working with Brooke Jowett a lot.
Okay, so you were part of, in my opinion, I'm a big challenge fan as well. I've watched pretty much from season 15 to the latest seasons, all of them. Some of the older seasons I didn't really get into right from the start. I think you were in one of the most memorable eliminations ever, which is the one that you went up against Conrad. It's going to go down, I think, in challenge history as one of the best eliminations. What did it feel like to actually physically be out there, against this big guy? You're going up against him. It's David versus Goliath. And how long did this whole thing take you guys to actually complete out there? Because the show, I don't know if it fully did it justice. We could see the pain in your face afterwards, but it looked like a gigantic battle.
Yeah, it was a gigantic battle. When I first got out there, because you're sort of out back, you can sort of see in, and I was like, oh, there's only a ring. And obviously, as well, being a fan of the challenge, I saw there was only a ring. I went, oh, I reckon it's a pole wrestle. And surely enough, I got in, it was a pole wrestle. And I knew Conrad was going in at that stage. And I was sort of glad in a way that Brittany was going against Brooke B, because I knew that she would win. So then I felt like it was all in my hands, which was nice to have. But looking across at him, he's 6'3", he's nearly 100 kilos. I'm only 5'7" and 60 to 65 kilos. So he's nearly got 40 kilos weight on me just from the get-go. I was like, I just felt like I'm going to be, pushing shit uphill here. Like I just knew immediately. And then going into it, I knew my grip strength would last, because obviously that, being off Ninja and all that was one of my strengths. So I just wanted to weather the storm, I guess, but the storm lasted a long time. That first round went for like 30 to 35 minutes, which you didn't see. But he played a lot more aggressive in the first round. He was attacking me. He was flinging me. He was trying to do a lot more moves, which meant I could do a lot more moves back. And it was just so tiring. I remember, him just flinging me around. I'm just holding on and just waiting and just seeing if his grip would let out. And he kept holding on. And yeah, man, he was a beast. And then the second round came in and he was vomiting straight after the first round. I'm thinking, oh, beauty, he's tired. He's going to struggle this round. I still felt like I had a bit more in me. And then the second round came and he immediately changed his tactic. He wasn't as rushed with his aggression. He was a lot more conservative with his strength. He was spending it a lot more wisely. He wasn't letting me, I guess, attack his forearms as much like I was in the first one, really trying to wear them down. He was sort of just laying on top of me when he wanted to rest, and there wasn't much I could do. And then that round ended up going for nearly an hour. So that was about, I think it was like 55 minutes or something, the second round. And he was literally just picking me up and slamming me. And it was so hard to do anything because I'd go to move and do something and he would just move around and sit on me again. And then, so what my strategy was in the end, because he had his arms like round my body, can't quite see that, but he had his arms around my body, is I was actually getting my leg in and pushing on his forearms the whole time. But the problem with that, because I was trying to wear down his grip, but the problem with that is all my weight would be above the ball. So that's when he was able to really pick me up and slam me like really, really well. So yeah, it was a long battle. I just remember like my head was in the sand. He had his knee at one stage on my face and was just wrenching at the ball. And yeah, it was pretty full on. But
have you ever been in scraps like this before? Was this the first time that you've experienced something to this degree, being
something like that? Yeah, absolutely. Like you don't go doing that sort of stuff for fun in your spare time. Like I've done a lot of wrestling in my spare time for fun, but not like that, not that long, not in the sand, not where like he's got his knee in my face, he's got his elbow, like he was doing everything within the rules, to his degree. So I've got no complaints there. He didn't kick, he didn't punch, and he didn't bite. So but geez, yeah, he was definitely physical, and he was
It's
definitely trying.
$100,000, right? So I
Yeah,
think people will
absolutely.
do a lot to get that. I could relate to you having the shakes of the adrenaline afterwards because
Yeah,
I've got a karate background myself and I've competed, and I know that when you're in a fight and you're in a ring, you do afterwards. You feel that adrenaline when you've been in that scenario, and it's very
yeah.
hard. Most people lose their head because they can't stay calm, but you seem to stay calm throughout all of that happening.
Yeah, I just didn't want to gas myself for no reason, and like I was getting slammed a lot, and it was hurting. Don't get me wrong, but
Mm,
it wasn't the end of the world for me. So I was happy for him to slam because I knew he was tiring out his forearms. And yeah, it was just hard. But yeah, the adrenaline at the end, like they're like, "Oh, you're shaking because you're hurt." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's just because like I've had so much
yeah,
adrenaline. I've been going so long that yeah, I just couldn't stop like shaking my arms. I was like the whole time.
yeah,
Now pretty
it really
banged up.
showed.
Yeah,
How
now
much time did you get to like recover between that challenge or being in the arena to actually doing the finale? Because it looked like it was instantly afterwards. Did you get any nutrition before running a finale? Like,
uh,
what happened? Like in
no, we didn't.
between?
No, we didn't get fed that night. So I didn't eat much as well because I don't like eating much before I compete. So before
Yeah.
that elimination, I would have had like, I don't know, this tiny, like little bit of pasta that Connor had made up, and that was it. So then we went straight into the final. It was literally Bryony announced it, and then we went out back for maybe 15 minutes while they got changed. I got cleaned up. I just wiped off my face. And then got a little bit of medical assistance, but not a lot because I didn't want them to medically DQ me because my hand was a bit swollen, my face was swollen. I didn't want them to go, "Oh, he's had concussion or he's had this, he's had that. He can't compete." So I was like, "Oh, just give me like the bare minimum," and I just iced it for
Wow.
that 15 minutes and wiped up. And then pretty much after 15 minutes, we jogged about a kilometer out to that puzzle, and we are getting stuck into that puzzle, which
Wow.
was really hard.
Were you
So yeah,
surprised not to see an eating challenge in the finale? Because in the challenge they normally
oh,
have at some point you eat while you're there, even if it's going to be
oh,
gross. At least you're going to get nutrition.
yeah, but I was so happy. Man, I hate eating challenges. I don't know how I'd go on an eating challenge. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
really happy not to see an eating challenge, that's for sure, because I don't want to see, I don't, like, as much as I sort of want to do an eating challenge, I really don't because they're just always bad. They taste
Yeah.
bad, people vomit, and I just don't know how I would deal with it. I don't know if I'd do well at it or poorly. So I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really happy not to see an eating one, that's for sure.
Well, impressive circumstances for you to go on straight after that and actually compete and win the whole show. So congratulations on that. You're
Thank
now
you.
going to be competing in the Challenge Global Championship, which means
Yes.
that you're going to be going up against the best that the Challenge USA, Argentina, and the UK have, and also some of the MTV challenges. Who would you love to see out there? And who would you hate to see out there as a competitor to go against? Because you're a fan that potentially could be playing with some of the legends now.
Yeah, look, I'm pretty excited. To play with some of the legends. I would hate to see CT out there. Like he's a boss, but if I did, he's definitely somebody I would want to get rid of because I know he does really well in the finals. Wes, I'm not sure whether I'm keen to see him there or not because, but what I've seen on the show, like you just don't know where he stands and whether you can trust him, and he's a good competitor too. So I'm not so sure about Wes. I'd love to see a few of the legend girls out there as well, the MTV girls. Like I wouldn't mind meeting Amber and Casey and Tori, a few of them. So I'm pretty keen to get stuck into it all. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see it happen on our screens. Now, for people that want to follow your journey and what you're doing outside of the challenge from now until then, where can people find you? What are you getting up to next?
Mainly on Instagram. So Troy.Cullen, it's my Instagram. You'll find all news updates there. And what I'm on to next, to be honest, I don't know. I want to go compete on Ninja again, and I wouldn't mind making it to the flagship. Like, I'd love to go compete against all the MTV people. I think they're a lot more cutthroat. They're brutal, and I reckon it'll be a good challenge, to go up against them. And it'll be interesting to see, what they think of me and whether, they'll chuck me straight away in because I'm a rookie and because I know how they treat rookies. It's not
Yeah,
good. So it'll
yeah.
be interesting.
I'll
But
be
yeah,
well. I'll
on a
keep an
final.
eye on it. I hope you make it onto the main show as well, especially after the performance you had. You had a really complete performance, and well done on winning this season. It's been so fun talking to you, Troy.
Sweet. No worries. Thank you.
Thanks.